The Jewel in the Lotus, 2012. The Hymn of the Pearl, 2024. The Maya culture has become world renowned and has become synonymous with the end of an era due to the 2012 prophecy, which gained so much attention from media and movies. According to Maya, there are 9 ages, the earliest and the most present age and the most extended one. And as cycles move forward, the ages become shorter and faster. According to Maya, the ages rely on each other. Ages represent the 9 states of matter. Each age, i.e. state of matter, has a purpose and a meaning. At each age, one has to arrive at an insight or accomplish something. The states of matter, mother, i.e. ages, are stepping stones and building blocks on the way to reach the keystone. The last age, which is, as Maya foreseen ages ago, the present age. The Maya, in tune with inner truth, developed a complex set of calendars that are containing important observances that were recorded as a daily registry of events and experiences, mirroring the more refined states of the preceding age. The ego, in an effort to separate the conscious mind from the inner state, misled to claims Maya studied the stars in the outer sky. Venus is not a place in the outer sky, but represents where the goddess of love resides in the west. The physical instrument Golden Woman is carrying, hence bloodline. Another error is the notion that Sirius was found in the fabricated world or ego, the South. Sirius is within. She is the celestial robe of soul. In myth, she is called the son of Isis. The Jewel in the Lotus, 2012, represents Golden Woman, goddess of love, Aphrodite. The Hymn of the Pearl, 2024, represents Soul, Andromeda, the rightful heiress. Will have been expressed by Maya. The terraced temples are constructed to constitute the inner clock of the sky. Just as satellites are placed in the sky, this science originates with Maya flying various satellites in order to cause projections of angles, place landmarks, and calculate the stages of the inner stations through resonating with the specific tones of the rarefied matter above and the purified matter below within frequency cycles. Through this science, Maya accurately envisioned and anticipated events, understanding all is happening now. The ego, the Western mind, believed that there were three sources of energy in the world illusion: the sun, the moon, and the center of the galaxy, or three dimensions, the analog. Maya, Eastern mind, is destroying the interdimensional contact with the seven rarefied states of matter. 1. Consciousness. 2. Subconsciousness or omnipresence. 3. Superconsciousness or omnipotence. 4. Celestial consciousness or omniscience. 5. Galactic consciousness, actualize. 6. Supreme consciousness, materialize. And the 7th is the infinite intelligence. These stages of non-locality of matter materialize as two distinct concepts and are represented as the jewel of the lotus, the interconnectedness of the righteous heirs within the World Wide Web, and the hem of the pearl, the hidden jewel within a shell of nature, resurrection. The Western symbolism has been correlated to being unconscious, sleep, or drunkenness. In the hem of the pearl, the king's son, an inner authority, goes down into Egypt, unconscious. The conscious mind within ego, Egypt, represents being in disguise. The term Egyptian represents the world, the interconnectedness, the jewel of the lotus, the jewel within the conscious mind, is unconscious of the interconnectedness of the Egyptians, and they suspect the conscious mind. So what does the Egyptians do? The outer world, completely convinces the conscious mind the fabricated world is the reality. The conscious mind forgets one is the king's son, the inner light, and forgets all about the pearl hidden within. Forgets all about the quest for the pearl, truth, and sinks into slumber and forgetfulness, falling victim to the web of deceit, the zodiac, the matrix, the ordinary state in which many are lost within time. Most of the world, ego, lives in a state of mental inactivity and lethargy, of motor inactivity, and bonded by stagnation of the sensory perceptions. One finds relief from the state of ignorance, darkness, sleep, and drunkenness by the state of resurrection. Such a state is the recognition things are not as they seem. Outwardly, the world no longer makes sense, and one becomes dedicated to inner standing and understanding the source of this uneasiness. This state of self-consciousness is the concept of the next higher state of matter, which acts as a kind of alarm clock from within. Just like when one is sound asleep, so sound asleep, some assistant is required to come along and wake one up. Sometimes a clock will suffice, but there are times one doesn't hear it. In this case, one needs a loud voice. A loud voice is when one can't stop the mental chatter. But sometimes even this is of no use. Sometimes one requires a shake where everything falls apart. The solar awakening is the inner shaking that wakes one out of deep sleep, out of drunken stupor. In this state, one still doesn't realize the true nature that one has in one's possession, the priceless jewel hidden within the web of illusion. In the sleeper's dream, one is poor, limited, conditioned, and consequently believes one is suffering. The forgetfulness that the dreamer had tied the jewel inside the consciousness. A greater understanding. Awakening from misidentification as the physical body, one must understand this detail. The ego and world functions through this air thinking. This is the mental construct which imprisons the dreamer. The jewel is not something acquired at some point in time. The jewel is consciousness. One must understand, like all stories, consciousness takes place outside of time. Within the dream itself, there is a transition from time to eternity. Literally, the jewel is eternally within one, as the physical instrument is her possession. One can never lose the jewel. Consciousness has been here all the time. That is to say, outside of time. The mental construct. It is only the awakening to the inner realm one has access to the jewel, consciousness, rebirth. Now, consciousness has occurred within time. Oneness, resurrection. The jewel of the lotus. The hem of the pearl, soul consciousness, represents the actualization of the return journey home. Wholeness, holiness. In both scenarios, the heroine goes to a distant country. In both scenarios, the heroine suffers hardship in the distant country, the World Wide Web, or Matrix, the Zodiac, Ezekiel's wheel within a wheel. In both scenarios, the heroine arises from poverty and ends up with riches. Truth. which is the only wealth. These represent the parallels of the inner and harmonization of the illusion. Of course, actualization makes both paths equal. The jewel of the lotus, oneness. One is made familiar with riches gradually. This is where one learns to overcome fear. Then one is able to be a manager and handle all the riches, the treasures. And when one becomes accustomed to them, one is able to begin understanding all of those riches as one's own. Here, one is validated with assurance. All really belongs to that one because she is the rightful heiress. Materialization. The hem of the pearl isn't like that. This transition is more abrupt. The inner truth is actualized and reveals to one without beating around the bush. That one is the wealth. Truth tells one the jewel, consciousness, is there, sustaining the physical instrument without any sort of introductory stage. Here in this scenario, in an instant, soul consciousness, the pearl awakens from the indigence of the outer shell, who caused the illusion of being poor, destitute, and suffering. Now, in an instant, one is whole, all, supremely unbounded and limitless. The difference between the jewel of the lotus and the hem of the pearl corresponds to the two different approaches to the greater realm of consciousness, inner outer perspectives. One method represents an inner teacher who provides a gradual approach through guidance. The second method is through actualizing the pearl. The revelation of truth is the outer is just a lower, denser nature. One may say the difference corresponds to degrees between the two paths. One, the path of vision, hem of the pearl, and the second, path of transformation, jewel of the lotus. The path of vision is the revealing of a grand design. The path of transformation is the transition from the errors of limitation and separateness, reunited and resurrected as the grand designer. The unity of wholeness and oneness of what used to be now dwells as a soul, which means only, holy, and pearl represents one's iridescent nature.